Hello, friends, and welcome to another exciting episode of Today with Tally. The mission and goal of this podcast is to bring an engaging conversation that will add value to the lives of everyday people. We will inspire, encourage, educate, and tell the stories of America's finest men and women in an effort to motivate you to live your life to its fullest potential. Be sure to follow us on social media and search Today with Tally. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the program as well. Ladies and gentlemen, your host of the evening, Mr. Brian Tally.
Welcome back to Today with Tally podcast, where we add real life value to the lives of everyday people. We're on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Anchor FM, Spotify, and About Face Radio. Simply search Today with Tally. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to get every episode and stay up to date with the latest and greatest our guests in this show has to offer. Folks, today's show sponsor is Chase's Choice out of Canyon City, Colorado. Now, Chase's Choice is an industry leader in cannabis and hemp products and continues to heal those in need. Whether you are struggling from physical pain, anxiety, depression, or having trouble sleeping, there is a product for you that will help improve the quality of your life. Ken, the founder of Chase's Choice, continues to engage in open conversation on the benefits of cannabis and hemp, CBD, CBG, CBN, THC, and all of the other cannabinoids found in the plant through extensive research and development. To learn more, visit Chase's Choice online today at chaseschoice.org. That's chaseschoice.org, or call Ken, the owner, directly. 719-371-0768. That's 719-371-0768. Now, CBD was Chase's choice. What's yours? Folks, remember to always consult with your doctor before starting any alternative medicine products, and always check with your state and local municipalities on the laws regarding the use of CBD and hemp products. Now, where are my business owners out there? Look, I know you guys are trying to get your gear, your merchandise. It could be, Facebook engagement, social media engagement. You've got a business service that you want to provide out there to our listeners. Give me a call. Let's sit down and have a conversation, and let's advertise your business right here on this podcast. Let me help you reach your goals by putting a marketing plan together, and we can develop a strategy to take your business to the next level. Like I said, gear, merchandise, business services. Perhaps you have an event that you're trying to get out to the general public. Email me today, thetallybill@gmail.com. That's the tallybill at gmail.com, or just give me a call, 951-294-7259. That's 951-294-7259. Folks, we have a very special guest joining us on today's program. Alan Olivo is a former Iraq security contractor, and he joins us today on the Today with Tally podcast. How are you, sir?
Doing well, Brian. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Look, man, the pleasure's all mine. I know I moved here about 2.5 years ago to Texas, and you were one of the first guys I met at I believe it was a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
Chamber of Commerce.
You came right up to me. You greeted me. You had a smile, and you put your hand out, and you said, "I'm Alan Olivo. Welcome to Texas." And ever since then, we've been great friends. And again, man, the pleasure's all mine to return that favor and to have you on my podcast as a guest. Again, you're a solid guy with a solid story, just an all-around good guy, man. I'm honored to have you.
No, Brian, and the feeling's mutual. The admiration, the respect is towards you and what you stand for, what you stood for, where you continue to fight. I fully support you, and I'm happy to do so, and proud to call you my friend and my brother, and to continue to foster our friendship into the future with our future endeavors. Actually,
Yes.
So this is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know we've had lots of lunches together. You bounce stuff off me.
Absolutely.
I bounce stuff off you. But let's get to know a little bit about Alan Olivo. Where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was life like as a kid?
I'm glad you asked that. So I grew up in a small town called Hempstead, Texas, just northwest of Houston. small town. Everybody knew kind of everybody. My neighbors were literally my cousins. We all grew up together in a very, very family oriented environment. We were always outside. This was long before the internet began. So we were always outside, always riding bikes. We would be outside all day. We won't come back home until literally when the sundown, and hung out with my friends, family. Great start to a very good, solid foundation to future family and the values that I carry on now.
Sure. When were you born, Alan?
August 14th, 1980.
1980. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're what, 42?
42.
Look at that math for Marines. It's working today for me. I don't know.
Hey, look at that.
It's good.
Way to go, Sergeant.
Gotta be that CBD that Chase's Choice is giving me. It's giving me a little bit of a spark I need to maybe think more clearly.
There you go, brother.
So Houston, Texas in 1980 looked a little bit different than it does now in 2023, correct?
Very different. A lot of us that are, a lot of our viewers that are born here and they grew up looking at FM 1960 long before, when it was literally a farm road, and then now 1960 is just filled with 1,960 lights. I say that sarcastically, but it's true. Houston has grown exponentially throughout the decades, and Highway 290, well, that's an ongoing project for expansion on the highways. Outside our fair city, the like Montgomery areas, Conroe, Spring, growing families have come from outside Texas, like California, Colorado. They all came to Texas. Big companies have come to Texas to base their new headquarters in, whether it's in Austin, Houston, Dallas. Such a great state, to welcome businesses and families that want to live a much better quality of life here in the state.
True. Yeah, very true. And I'm going to steal that. 1,960 stoplights on the 1960. I've never heard that one before, but I tell you, I'm going to write that one down.
Well, I say that sarcastically, but it's just it's a lot of traffic if you ever travel through there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just glad that I have the toll, package,
the easy tag.
So I just try to stay clear of everything that is free, and I pay to drive around here. It definitely pays off, if you will.
Got that right.
So you would end up growing up in the Houston area. You graduate from high school, you get put on a path of becoming a security contractor. What did that look like? And what inspired you to pick up this sort of job?
So to give you more of a background, it didn't always start out as I become a security contractor. How it really started, growing up in the 80s, I like many of us, we played soldier. I used to play G.I. Joe. I would watch G.I. Joe, the cartoon. I even watched Rambo, Commando. We all know those characters, right? So I wanted to be Rambo. I would be the one that would grab a rope, tie it from one tree to another, and literally go from one end to another at 15, 20 feet in the air. And my mom is just going crazy, looking at me, just fearless, right? I didn't get my first real taste of war is when I saw the Gulf War on TV, and that's what really triggered it to me wanting to be a soldier. But as I continued to grow, my parents kind of convinced me to go the other route. On my mother's side of the family, we have a lot of architects and engineers and a lot of educators. So I shadowed one of my cousins who's an architect. He had his own business, and it just kind of flourished from there. And I just decided I do have a very creative side. So I took on that route to satisfy my parents and to satisfy myself and go to and study architecture after graduation. Had a handsome living in the business. Started out small, working with really good home designers, and cultivated more my creativity to the point where I got my own builders, my own clients, and what became a side business became a business. And as a few years later, in my mid-20s, back in 2008, the housing market crashed. In the Houston market, it was just saturated with architects, engineers, and home builders. And it was just a way to shake things up. And unfortunately for me, I couldn't compete versus the big names that were in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years. And ultimately, it led me to make a drastic change to apply for a job with working with KBR, and here I am, and landed in Baghdad in April 2011.
Mm-hmm. So, to scoot back a little bit, what
Sure.
kid didn't want to be Rambo growing up, right?
Oh, absolutely, right.
And, so obviously you did not take the path of becoming a soldier, but
Correct.
as fate would have it, the crash of 2008 put you in a situation where a lot of Americans, thousands of Americans, I personally know at least a dozen folks that got caught up in that housing bubble, the recession, and they would find themselves overseas working as a contractor with either Blackwater or whatever all the other ones are. And I know you've got a lot that you can mention because you were one of those guys. Now, you would end up in the Middle East, so you would kind of almost fill out that role of Rambo in a way, but just not wearing the U.S. military uniform. However,
Correct.
You were wearing a contractor's uniform. So you had different rules of engagement. You were out there for a different mission, but all in all, to support the war on terror and other assets that we had on the ground. Now, what was it like becoming a contractor, an Iraq security contractor? And what did your day-to-day job and operations and missions look like as a civilian working in Iraq?
Well, for me, I was more along the lines of the business side, growing the business in support of oil and gas companies, especially in the northern region. It was literally my first taste of where we landed in BIOP and Baghdad International. Other AKA BIOP. 30 minutes later, we got bombed on. We got 3 mortars that came on base. That was just a huge wake up call, and so it was like boom, boom, boom. Welcome to Baghdad, and luckily, thank God, nothing happened to any of us. It was just rounds just being hit on base. And luckily no one got hurt, but it was just my first taste of, oh my God, like this is real, right? This is what, and ultimately you know what you signed up for, prior to coming into country, what you signed up for, but nothing actually prepares you to the real deal, right? Mm-hmm. Once reality set in, some guys demobilized and decided this is not for them. They went home. I decided I stayed, and I stayed and started. Pretty much, I hit the ground running. I started going around between FOBs, and then ultimately, moved to the northern region of Iraq, the Kurdistan region, to Erbil, and that's where we had most of our contracts, in support of oil and gas companies. And it was the day-to-day was just different experiences every day. I you develop really good relationships with your local people, with your teams. You come together, you grow closer. My faith grew a lot more, but while overseas. So a lot of great things have come from me being overseas. You don't leave and come back the same person. It's which serves as as a true testament. Not it's just you meet a lot of great people, you come together, you really rely on the person literally next to you to get through the day, whether it's whether it's a good day or a bad day. You're with your guys, you're with your team, you're with your employees, you're with your team and your boss. And I had the privilege of working with Dennis Chalker and Duke Leonard. They served as my mentors, and they're my friends to to present day. And I thank God for these men that I was able to work under throughout these years, and especially while working as a contractor over there.
Sure, and I can understand the camaraderie that you were talking about.
Absolutely.
You were with your fellow contractors, the other employees, and so on and so forth. They're in a combat zone with mortars coming, and you lean on each other, for emotional support, spiritual support, whatever it may be. You're away, from the continental United States, and you're in an area that you don't know really anything about except for we're at war. Now, when you first got there, when you got off that airplane and you're sitting on that tarmac and you got escorted from the airport, Bagram in Iraq, to your duty station, if you will, were you escorted by U.S. soldiers or U.S. Marines to ensure your safety in a convoy, or were you guys just on your own out there, just driving around the country, at your own risk?
Oh no, sir. Initially, we were we still had big army right there. We were escorted by U.S. military. We had our vest and our helmet, and we were just ready to go. And all of a sudden, we see this soldier, dressed, armed to the teeth, and he just briefed us, hey, this is what we're going to do in the event that anything happens. Do this, that, and follow my orders, and I'll keep you safe out to the best of my ability. And luckily nothing happened, but we were escorted by U.S. military. Couldn't feel safer. I'm so proud of the military, of our men and women out there in uniform.
So I got a question for you, Alan.
Yes, sir.
You protected oil and gas assets, correct?
Yes.
Now, who owned this oil and gas? Was this Iraqi oil and gas, or was this oil and gas that was owned by the United States? And I know you're from Houston, and Houston is the energy capital of the world, if you will. What did that?
So how that worked? The oil operators will become partners with the Iraqi government. In this case, I was in the Kurdistan region in Erbil. So the deal was that the oil operators will partner up with the local government and have their business license and go through the ministry, and they'll handle the business end on from there, right? So to answer your question, who owned that? Who owned the actual oil? Well, actually, the local company did. But it was extracted by whatever company is out there, whether it's American, British, other foreign companies that were operating there. They would have their business partnerships with the government. In this case, the Kurdish government, if they were operating in the Kurdistan region, which is the autonomous region of Iraq. It's still Iraq. It's still under the Iraqi flag because they're not. It is not its own country. But they did have their own government, their own president. So they would have that. But if you were operating anywhere outside the Kurdistan region, you will have your business license with the Baghdad government. For example, if you were operating in Basra, you would have your partnership with the Baghdad government. Mm-hmm. I didn't have much experience dealing with companies outside the Kurdistan region. My business was more my AO, my area of operations, was more in the Kurdistan region, from the Hook, the Hook, Erbil, Suleimania.
Mm-hmm. I asked this because it's very interesting.
It is.
Because you're out there protecting these oil fields. I mean, from combat, correct? From being, from people coming in and doing bad things there, whether they're sabotaging this or.
Correct. We had several threats, even on moving forward. The big threat during the time was ISIS, and and then you would have your small little terrorist groups here and there, your splinter cells, but you'll have ISIS that came in and just kind of put the whole country on hold because of that, and we had to kind of revert and change the mission a little bit. Some companies pulled out temporarily while things settled. The price of oil, dropped down to the 20s, 20 cents or something, 20 cents a barrel, which was ridiculously low. And then just contracts were just getting more and more scarce. But our mission was still to protect oil companies, the people and their assets, and their rig sites. Whether it's in the rig sites, the convoy to the rig sites, even their home base and in the city.
So when you were there protecting these oil and gas assets, you were working for an American contractor, right?
Correct. Vanguard Consulting Group. That's where.
But were you also working in unison from with other contractors from abroad, from around the world, because they also had those oil and gas strategic reserves?
Yeah. So we had there are several companies that were operating out there. Some were local, some were international. Control Risk, Vanguard. You had Falcon Group. A lot of companies were operating out there, both foreign and local. If for example, if it was a local company, they would have foreign management, whether it's from the UK, South African, US, even Eastern European, such as Romania. A lot of experts came in and worked for these companies for a common goal to protect the oil and gas companies, people and their assets.
What was the communication like for you to be on the ground? As you would work your way up to become the director of operations for Vanguard, in Iraq, and there's all these different countries in there protecting the oil and gas assets on the ground, while you were in there working on behalf of an American contractor. Now, you had mentioned, just a bunch of different countries right now. What did that communication look like, and how did you effectively communicate with others on the ground?
So with just Vanguard alone, we had different experts that came to work with us. A lot of them were American. Some were from the South Africa, and some were from Romania. The communication, and obviously we recruited our local national teams. So there was, our main communication line was mostly in English, obviously, but and the contractors that we hired were fluent in English. Mm-hmm. And being over there is, you just if you were to embrace the local culture, you're naturally going to pick up the foreign language, whether it's Arabic, Kurdish, two different dialects in Kurdish, the Sorani and Badini. You'll pick up other languages if you choose to engage with the local culture. And a lot of our guys, they just immerse themselves in the culture. We attended weddings, funerals. We really just got involved with the local community, which helped a lot when working in the oil fields, because we would engage with the village chiefs, the sheikhs, the local law enforcement chief, to hire on capable people to work at these rig sites. Have them vetted before they get on these rig sites, and some we would train them to become part of the convoy team, to become personal protection officers, canine handlers. Some were even working as an Indian administrator. We had interpreters. So we had just a huge camaraderie and a conglomerate of people that worked together in unison to really work together. Mm-hmm. And I think it's this reverts back to my point where the relationships that you establish overseas are pretty dynamic. Whether you're going to either hate each other or you're going to really like each other. And so luckily, thank God, our teams were able to get along just fine, with little to no. Of course, there were conflicts every now and then, but nothing that we couldn't resolve internally. Through like a come together moment or something. But anytime when you're working with different cultures, you're going to deal with you're going to have your challenges. But as long as we all respect, you have your core values, you can come together and work together and come and respect each other and really, really push forward. Luckily, we were able to accomplish that. Some guys were trainable, some guys were not, and it's just the nature of the beast, right? You get the good ones and the bad ones, and then you move forward with the good ones.
Now, you had mentioned that you had become a part of the community.
Yes.
What was the local community like, and what were the people of Iraq like?
So, in the Kurdistan region, they're extremely welcoming. They really, really embrace me, speaking as an American. I landed in the Kurdistan in Erbil International Airport. Here I am. I land, and everybody's looking at me kind of funny because I do look Arab, even though I'm Latino. I'm half Mexican, Puerto Rican, but born and raised in Texan. But over there I look Arab, and everybody would just at the airport. Once they saw my passport and they saw my name, and they were just, oh, welcome. They were extremely welcoming. They would literally, if you didn't have a ride, they would give you a ride, or they would just love for you to take you to go out and eat. They were very welcoming. The Kurds, the Kurdish people, and going out into the outside the Kurdistan region, there's like a kind of like these gray areas between the Kurdistan region and the rest of Iraq, where you have these old minority groups called the Yazidis. They're not Muslim, they're not Christian, they're Yazidi. It's an old minority group. They speak Arabic, but they also have their own language, their own dialect, and it's just again, they were very welcoming. It's just a lot. You have to really get involved with them, sit down with them. There's a lot of tea, a lot of coffee, a lot of water. So it's a good time to train your bladder.
Yeah, so it's funny. You look Arab, you get over there, they look at your passport, and they're like, Alan, Alan, sir. Who's Alan?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, like I promise you, I land there, And the very next day, here I am. I'm standing in front of 20 guys, 20 locals, and they're all looking at me with this look, and they're like, "Huh, our brother came back." And so, and I started learning Arabic. Actually, I got to the point where I was conversational. I understand more than I can speak. Now, unfortunately, I lost a lot of practice, but being over there, even though some of the older gentlemen that worked with me, he came up to me one day. He goes, "Mr. Allen, please tell me the truth. Your parents are from Baghdad, right? They fled during the Gulf War. You came back. Please tell me the truth." I was like, "My friend, my brother, I I was born American. I was born in Texas. I'm half Puerto Rican, half Mexican. You know, it's just this. If I was Arabic, believe me, I would embrace it, but I'm not." But it's, and with the name Allen, it's actually a common name in the Kurdistan region. And so when I landed in Erbil International, presented my passport, they looked at me. He says, "Kurdish?" And I'm like, "No, sir, I'm Texan." We always refer to those who know, if you're from Texas, anywhere where you travel, anywhere outside the U.S. and they ask you where you're from. I was like, "I'm from Texas." That's just you already know, Brian. You know, it's a Texan pride. It's a Texan thing.
Now, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Now, you would end up serving so many. I mean, how many years total overseas?
Total of pushing 10 years.
You served 10 years. Now, did you have a family when you were over there?
Yes, I have my daughter that was born over there, and she was born in Erbil. But we have a U.S. embassy in Baghdad and a consulate in Erbil, and you know she was born an American by default.
Incredible. Now, 10 years of your life over there, supporting oil and gas assets,
Yes,
as well as helping support in the war on terror.
Yes.
In Iraq. And 10 years is a long time to dedicate working overseas in a dangerous country, in a dangerous region that was absolutely war torn.
Right.
Now, I know you can't serve 10 years straight over there without having to come home, obviously, with some mental rest and some mental leave, if you will, to kind of regenerate those batteries and come home. With that being said, what were the lengths of your tours? How long would you serve over in Iraq before you were allowed to come home on leave? And what did that look like? What was, what was it, 6 months on, a month off?
So I would take leave every, depending really, but it was on average, it would be anywhere from 6 to 8 months. But normally, ideally, for my other guys, they were on a rotational schedule of 5 weeks on, 5 weeks off. Some were 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off. Some were 6 weeks and 6 weeks. But on average, for my guys that worked with me, they were on based on the contract, it was 5 weeks on, 5 weeks off. And their flights were taken care of, everything. I myself, I took leave every 6 to 8 months for about 2 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. So I would, grab a ticket, buy a ticket, get to Houston, land in Houston by, let's say, 6 p.m. in the evening. The first thing I want to do is just go and grab some tacos and barbecue. And to recharge, it's just really, I didn't really do much travel once I got home. Every now and then, yes, but for the most part, is to recharge and to spend time with my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my brother's family, my niece and my nephew. Spend time with family because I'm away a lot, and it's just to recharge and reconnect with the family. Even though I communicated with the family just about almost on a daily basis, or every other day, or once a week, once or twice a week. It's never as good as being present in the moment, hugging your family, holding them, kissing them. It's definitely the best feeling when you get to come home. Tell them your little stories. I mean, not the full story, of course, but the parts that you want your family to know, without giving away too much information. Because my parents, they probably knew not even half of what I've done over there, mostly because you don't want them to worry when you go back, because we all know what we signed up for, and we all know the risk. Even though the Kurdistan region was not considered, there were times where it was considered like very dangerous, but there are other times where it's calm, but there was always a chance of terrorist attacks, and it has happened, but it's not televised. So I just let my parents know, hey, this happened today. Everything is great. I'm good. We're all good. It's just maintaining communication, because when we're those who have served you, Brian, and several other on the viewers, myself, when we're away from their families, it's the people that we leave behind. Those are the ones that fight the real fight. They're the ones taking care of the kids. Just the normal daily operations of holding a home. We're out there. We're focused on one thing and one thing alone, and that's the mission. And of course, we have our families in the back of our heads, but you always, it's the families that are back home that really the unsung heroes, if you will, and something to really praise and value those that have sacrificed back home.
Sure. Yeah. It's, both, the family serves too,
Absolutely.
And, that's something that a lot of folks need to understand. And you hit the nail right on the head. They hurt, and they're suffering way more than you, because all they're thinking of is their loved one, and all you're thinking about is the mission. And so that time does come to an end. That day of working comes to an end. And when you punch that time clock out for the day, you go back to your living quarters.
Yeah.
What do your living quarters look like as a contractor working in Iraq?
So I had to working with my bosses, Dennis and Duke. We built a relationship of trust, and eventually it essentially just grew into a lifelong friendship with these gentlemen. So in the afternoons or evenings, 5 o'clock comes, here we are, it's either Dennis or Duke that are in country. You can just hear someone going into the kitchen, popping off that bottle of beer. And I'm still in the office working, and all of a sudden I just hear Dennis or Duke, whoever's in country at the time. If it was Duke, he would just say, "Oh, yo, Alan." Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, you can just hear Duke just say, "Yo, Alan." Yes, sir. You want a beer? Yes, sir. I'll be right there. Come on, big boy. You know you're in your boss's good graces when he says, "Come on out here, big boy." It was great times, and then just sitting out there. Sorry, excuse me. Just sitting out there with the bosses and going over business plans, business ideas, trainings for the guys and for our local nationals. And so that's pretty much a lot of the downtime was that, or going to the gym. I was probably in better shape then than I am now, but the downtime was mostly hanging out with the bosses, hanging out with I had my daughter with me at the time, and my family over there. So it was hanging out with the family, going to the gym, or even hanging out with the rest of the team, the ones that were, coming and going, and seeing how their families are doing, and some of these guys even contributed on during their off time. They would go to some of these villages and contribute their own personal time to hang out within the local community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, during the fight against ISIS, we were a lot of our guys, contributed to donations from their local churches back home. Brought funds to purchase just basic items for daily living, whether it's clothes, hygiene products, feminine products, just anything and everything that any family would need, during the time, especially with all these refugees that we took care of out of our own pockets.
Now you would spend 10 years, working in Iraq, and like you said, your daughter was born in Iraq. And what did the security protection look like for your daughter when you were working this dangerous job? And was she behind, a heavily fortified, wall, if you will? Did they have, force protection around the civilians and especially the families of the contractors that were serving overseas?
Right. So I was the only one that had his own. I was the only one that had my family over there. My daughter, she was in the Kurdistan region. It was considered practically safe. Since I've been out there for so long, you clearly do your assessments on hospitals, and which hospitals are the best capable to take care of you and your family. And there are very, very well capable doctors out there who have studied. They're like, for example, the doctor was chief surgeon that delivered my daughter. He literally came out, spoke to me. Very professional gentleman from Jordan, and he spoke to me in just as fluent English as you and I are speaking. And he says, "Look, Mr. Olivo, I'm here to tell you that I'm going to be he introduced himself. I'm the chief surgeon, along with his name. I'm here to assure you that I'm going to be delivering your baby personally." And I couldn't thank him enough. But she was born in Halier International Hospital, and not behind like any fortified base or anything. I mean, the Kurdistan region was very well protected by the local army, the Peshmerga and the Asaish, which is the equivalent of our FBI. They have one thing about the Kurdistan region's security. They took it very, very, very seriously, and couldn't be more proud to be under their protection.
Wow. Yeah, there's not too many folks that can give that sort of testimony.
No, you're right.
Alan, you spent 1/4 of your life in Iraq. I mean, you were a resident
practically,
and like I said, you would climb that ladder and you would end up holding a lot of higher end managerial and executive type positions out there, and you filled a role. Now, what kept you there so long? What inspired you to put in a total of 10 years? Was it year to year? Was it day to day? Was it month by month? Or did you just love what you did?
It was definitely love what I did. The part of growing the business, we went from, we took this company from 11 million to 22 million in 1 year, for example. The teams that we put together that worked with us, Some of the guys are still my lifelong friends, and that working with Dennis, he's a friend, and for me it was more it was the experience of living abroad. I kind of always wanted to do that, but for me it was but also for me was the a calling to to protect, and serve. Maybe not in the capacity of the military, but still, we're under the service that we're serving companies that are paying for our services. Even though it's not necessarily, yes, of course, the money is great and all that, but there's a much bigger um, calling when you have terrorists, at your doorstep. You feel that sense of responsibility to protect what your clients, yourself, and their assets. So for me, it was the challenge um, to grow this business, this company into the great business that it was, up until we left. Um, and the local culture really helped too. I mean, there were, again, it was I didn't have any the experiences have been a lot more positive than negative. So I felt safe, living over there. Um, the relationships that you cultivate and foster over there is pretty incredible. By getting to know members of the ministry, even government entities. It makes makes it a lot easier.
Right. It sounds like that the local culture embraced you, in your family while you were there, which made it easier for you to do your job because you felt like as if you were
I was
home.
home.
Yeah, you were home. I mean, what they say in the Marine Corps, home is where you lay your head. If it's in the field or if it's in your home,
Mhm.
with your family, home is where you lay your head. Home is where you make it, and
Absolutely.
and obviously you made the very best of it because, like I said, I know at least 12 guys, at least a minimum, and they can only do this job for I think the longest 3 years, maybe 4 years. And then they said no more. They would make their money and they'd say, "Yeah, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. It's too hard on my family. It's too hard on me. The
Agreed.
travel,
Yeah.
the job, the anxiety." A lot of guys would end up battling depression, and stuff over there when they're serving away from their family. Did you ever see any of that amongst your peers? And if so, how did you counsel them?
I'm glad you touched that because one of my better friends, he retired, Special Forces, 18 Delta. Always learning, always studying, bettering himself. One day I get a phone call. He was on leave, and one day I get a phone call from his wife telling me that that he committed suicide. It was extremely hard to swallow and process that, coming from a guy that's supposed to be my friend, right? And I didn't see it coming. Um, on some guys, you can kind of tell when they're being burnt out, the way they snap, or body language, the way they talk. You can just tell when people are getting burnt out. You can see the mood, the vibe, their energy. And for my guy, he my really good friend JJ, he committed suicide. And when I heard the news, I was just in awe, and I just didn't know that he was in such a dark place, to the point where he had to um, uh, take his own life. And so the need to really support veterans on and suicide awareness and things is very important. something that I support in any way, shape, or form that I can. With some of my other guys, if you see some of the other guys that are, some come in with a goal in mind, okay, I'm gonna do this for 1 year, 2 years, whether it's to meet financial goals back home, whether it's to have a down payment for a home, pay off a house, whatever the case may be. They have a goal in mind, and they have it set. They do their time, and we say goodbyes in the most respect and honorable way, and off they go. And then there are those that have stuck with me for a little bit longer, and sometimes you can just, again, you can see their body language and the way they talk, and some of them will tell you straight up, "Hey, I'm getting burnt out. I need some time off." Perfect. Or sometimes just the rotations, 5 weeks on, 5 weeks off, work for them, and they really take advantage of their time off. But as you said, they can only do this for so long. Others wanted to stay on board as long as I was conducting business out there. And some of them did, all the way through and through, up until they either got certified in other areas of, they got certified to become health safety specialists, and they moved on to work for the actual oil company as a safety representative, or some became a quality representatives. So being part of Vanguard was a lot of times a stepping stone towards something bigger after the contract basically finished. Because like anything, everything comes to an end, and for some, they have a goal in mind. They met them, and they move on to bigger and better things. Whether it's, again, to become part of the actual oil company and grow along with them, or sometimes they just go home and finally retire from this whole contracting business.
Alan, you have tremendous real life experience and knowledge through the decade that you spent serving our country overseas, protecting oil and gas assets and other security things too that you just don't want to talk about, and that's absolutely fine. But your dedication and your determination and your leadership styles, and I know your character, you're a great man of character.
Thank you.
You've seen a lot of things, and like I said, you literally became a resident. You were doing the job that not a lot of people wanted to do because the turnover was so high. You're working in Iraq, it's the constant threat of suicide bombers, terrorist attacks. And,
sure.
And then you had your daughter. I mean, you have your family serving overseas with you, and you're trying to counsel, good men and women over there who are working with you that may be going through some life struggles and some life battles and some life challenges. Now, I want to ask you a question here.
Please.
What sort of real life value, what sort of encouragement, what sort of inspiration could you share with our listeners as we begin to wrap up this show?
The biggest thing was that I kept one thing that stayed with me or to help me, was my faith in God, and that has helped tremendously, especially giving him thanks for being for allowing me to live and giving me the blessing to work with great men and along all these years. My faith has really was something that I really tried to convey to the rest of the team. Look, have faith. Because even on you can stay positive all you want, but it's having faith is what will pull you through. so that's pretty much how I would sum it up. Having faith and having that relationship with God, that was, to me, that's fundamental. And passing it along to the rest of the guys, whatever you rely on, have faith. Have your relationship with God. Go home, go to your families. Go to your prayer groups. Whatever helps you cope with being out here, do that. Always encourage that.
When you showed up in Iraq day one, what was your relationship with God?
It was strong, but it got stronger while being overseas. I will say that. Nothing, I knew what was. We all knew what we signed up for, but that first experience with being bombed on and being shot at, even though, thank God, nothing happened. And throughout some of the incidents that I have gone through, I came out the other side with no scratches or very minimal injury, and it's because of God. It's because of Him that I'm able to sit here and talk to you. And true testimony to my 10 years overseas has led me to pretty much to this moment, and to tell you, this is having faith in God. Yeah.
How old were you when you landed in Baghdad?
So that was in 2011. So that's what is I was 31.
31 years old. And so from 31 to 41 years old, that's like the prime time of like really living your life. Mm-hmm. If you had to do it all over, and a lot of people would say, man, you really wasted those 10 years. You weren't, back in the United States, like living this lavish lifestyle. You weren't going to ball games. You were, your life, working as a contractor in Iraq sucks. It's not cool. It's not fun. It's a dangerous job. It takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of sacrifice. If you had to do it all over again, would you?
Definitely. Maybe I would do I would do other things a little different. But the experiences that I've gained, it was totally worth it. Getting to know some of the people that I've come to work with and call friends, it was totally worth it. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Would I do certain things differently? Absolutely. And now you come to present day, having the opportunity to open up a security company, and with the opportunities of that, and along with another company in the alternative energy industry, those are some of the challenges that I'm looking forward to, from here on out, the security company and working with Archangel security and protection, and along with international vision of strategy, IVOS, that's going to be in alternative energy. Mm-hmm. These are great companies that I'm very much involved with, and looking forward to the future with them. But those experiences in the past led me to where I am right now, and demand where I'm going to be going from here on out.
Excellent. Experiences gained and relationships forged forever. Now, Alan, I would like to thank you for joining us on today's program. We sincerely appreciate everything you have done and continue to do in the military and veteran community. Your service, sacrifice, and dedication to our great nation is truly admirable.
No, thank you, Brian. It's a real pleasure. Thank you so much for your kind words, and congratulations to you and your endeavors. Couldn't be more proud of you.
Thank you, brother. That means a lot. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time, for Today with Tally, this is Brian Tally. Good night, Semper Fi, and God bless.